What's up guys, it's OSG and today we're going to be looking at this new website I found on the dark web called Dark Content. Now from what I can see this is fucking weird as shit. Anyway, let's have a look at this first video. Why is she just staring at me?
I would prefer not to include my name. Now I'm at home. I work doing content moderation for different companies, but they are not required to tell us who they are. The companies usually use pseudonyms, so I never really know who I'm doing the content moderation for. Some have really clear instructions with examples, and others just say something like flag the adult images, which can be interpreted very differently by different workers. I work whenever I have free time. Most of the time, it's in the evenings. But with the way the system is set up, you have to do the work when it becomes available, or else someone else will accept it and do it first. You can't wait around and do it later, or else it'll be gone, so I have to keep my eye on that.
You just explain your job, because I don't care.
I moderate videos, photos and text, but most of the time, it's photos. I very rarely moderate videos.
Why is it still a
There is one
woman's
requester that
voice
uses the system that is associated with the Mormon Church. We moderate images that go into the church genealogy archives and website. For those, you have to flag and remove anything that shows very much skin, a low-cut neckline, a swimsuit, people of the same sex who are acting affectionate toward each other, any men who are wearing women's clothing, etc. They only want approval on very modest images and absolutely nothing that could imply homosexuality, cross-dressing, or anything like that.
Why do they have to just stare at me for like 5 minutes before they start
I've
talking?
seen children in sexually suggestive clothing and poses. I've also seen humans having sex with animals. I try very hard to avoid the requesters that post these kinds of images, and stick with requesters I know that generally don't have these kinds of images up for moderation. Some requesters are known for always having really graphic images, and other requesters, like the Mormon Church example, very rarely, or never have images like this. I prefer to work for these safer requesters, to reduce the chances of seeing the really awful images. When I see graphic content, I usually stop content moderation work for the day, and move on to something else. I also talk to other content moderators, and we talk about what we've seen. It's a way to get it off our chest, and talk to someone else who knows what you're talking about, and has seen similar things.
Also, who would send illegal content in for moderation?
I never speak with friends or family about what I do. They know I do online work, but not really any details. They've never really asked and I haven't offered anything. It's a combination between feeling good about what I'm doing, being in a powerful place to prevent other people from having to see terrible things, and having mixed feelings about the power, making decisions that someone else's photos or art, or whatever it is, must be removed or hidden from view. I feel a bit like a superhero when I think about how I might be helping a child from seeing a graphic photo, but at the same time, don't necessarily feel like it's my place to have the power to decide that the photographer shouldn't be allowed to display his or her work.
Where's this being displayed?
I do have a common frustration. When I see an image that needs to be tagged because it is really graphic or illegal, I flag it and then move on to the next image or the next task. There is no follow-up. I never know what happens, or if anyone saw that it was flagged, or that anyone took care of it. Maybe I flag the image and they remove it from their data set, so it's not visible online anymore. But what if there was something illegal in the image, like child pornography, that needed to be reported to the police? Does anyone at the company call the police? Does anyone try to help the child in the image? I have no idea. Since the requesters are almost always anonymous, I can't contact the company to even ask these questions. I click to flag the image, but then after that, I don't know if anyone ever cares.
Is this an actual job? Like, what? Who are you moderating? I don't think there's just like generic moderators for any. Okay, this video's over. Let's watch that episode 2 then.
Content moderation, for me at least, is not choosing whether something is okay for someone to see, but more determining if it meets certain criteria. It's up to the content provider, or host, what people should or should not see.
Yeah, and the law.
I just make sure everything meets those demands. I guess it would be similar to how police officers don't make laws, they just enforce them. I guess the basic idea is that I'm scanning through a group of images to determine if any of them contain adult content. One job I've done quite a bit involves checking groups of animal pictures.
So basically, you do what everyone else does, which is searching the internet for adult content.
To make sure they are all of animals, and didn't include human faces, or anything offensive. I've done content moderation for various companies, but I never knew who my employers were. I'm currently living in my car, while I travel around the US. All the work I do is online, and I do that on my laptop, so I'm always in a place with free Wi-Fi and electrical plug-ins.
So your
most common is either a Starbucks or a McDonald's, with the occasional Panera's, public library, or local cafe. It does make it difficult to do moderation that has adult content, so I usually try to find a corner where no one can look over my shoulder.
Yes, so
Ha ha ha.
Like the police.
I don't have a set schedule, so work hours depends on where I'm sleeping that night, and when I wake up. When I feel like getting up, I'll do a Google search for any places nearby that have free Wi-Fi. If I find a decent McDonald's, I'll go straight there, and get a burger when they start serving lunch. If work is really busy, and the place I'm working closes, I'll sometimes work in my car, and use my phone as a mobile hotspot.
Let's buy a house.
About a month ago, I was at McDonald's, reviewing images that were fairly dense with hardcore porn. I couldn't find a place to sit against the wall that also had an electrical outlet. On one side of the restaurant, though, there was a seat, where I could see if anyone walked by to sit behind me, so I sat there. I spent the day working, and there were a lot of pretty graphic adult images, going as far as French fetish porn. About 3 hours in, I got up to use the restroom and looked behind me. There was a family sitting there, able to see everything I was doing.
So basically a bunch of
Apparently, there was a door I hadn't noticed, and people had been coming and going the whole time. Ha ha ha.
It's not funny. You've just been exposed. What the fuck's wrong with
I enjoy the freedom. I mean, what other job would let me support myself while I'm traveling indefinitely? One downside is that I get paid by the task, so when work is slow I'm on a pretty tight budget. Occasionally, I see fairly disturbing images, but I don't mind it. There's occasionally a video containing some sort of gore, but that's been rare for me. Gruesome videos give me an odd, uncomfortable feeling. Like I can see violence and gore in a movie, and it's fine, but then sometimes I see a video and I know it's real, and it's disturbing. I can't really explain it. The most common type of video that I find disturbing is some of the French fetish porn I mentioned. Fetish porn is probably great, if that's what you're into. But if you aren't, it's usually pretty out there. For rare cases, where something such as child pornography, or other illegal content comes up, there are usually specific steps to take, that could potentially allow it to be fixed. If the video showed someone torturing an animal, for example, I could flag it as such, and the poster would probably be reported to the authorities. I won't go into any of the disturbing videos I've come across. Really, when it comes down to it, I don't want to go into detail on anything like that. The worst one I feel I can describe was a video that showed the suicide of a mayor or senator. He was giving a speech in front of a bunch of people, then pulled out a revolver and shot his brains out. It was pretty graphic. I don't talk about this with family or friends. Not because I don't want to talk about it. More because we don't talk about my work much. We don't talk much at all, really.
I really don't understand this video. It's just not making much sense to me. I'm really not understanding the idea of this. Oh god. That looks like a meme.
When I started full-time as a content moderator, I was working for Vimeo. For the most part, the videos
so
are
you're working
allowed
for
to flow
cesspool.
naturally, but when video met one or more triggers, they were rejected. Working for Vimeo was within the company IAC, the owner of Vimeo, so it meant that I never once stepped foot inside Vimeo's building, nor did I ever meet a single engineer, marketer, data analyst or any other position at the headquarters. I worked off campus, in a building dedicated to content moderating, much like a call center you would see in a movie. The office that I worked in provided me a cubicle that I did all my work from.
So
It was your very typical cubicle, with gray walls and a faux granite-style countertop. In the center of the cubicle were double monitors that I would sit in front of for up to 9 hours at a time, reviewing videos that had met the trigger. Nowadays, I believe that users know their content is being reviewed, but they just don't understand how closely. Content moderation is not a form of censorship, as these businesses have the right to provide a safe and respectable environment just like any brick-and-mortar storefront is allowed. If you were to go to any public establishment and say harmful or violent things to other customers, or expose yourself to them, you would be arrested. Content moderation is a form of keeping the peace. Just like the police patrol public domains in the real world, content moderators patrol public domains on the internet. There have been videos removed because of death threats, or individuals showing weapons that they claim they will use on another user. Most of the time, the content that we are removing is keeping a problem from happening. At least, that is how we are trained to think. There were some conspiracy theory movies clips that we were made to take off the site. These videos contained documentary-style information about events like 9/11. There were also videos removed about Scientology, and the rumor was that Scientology had threatened to sue IAC. The videos that were removed had to deal with reaching a high ranking in the religion, and were private documents that only those reaching that level would be allowed to see. I don't always enjoy working as a content moderator. There were times in which videos would be removed that I believed were only done so to appeal to political reasons. When the 2012 presidential elections were happening, we were asked to remove all Al-Qaeda-related videos. This could have been because of the elections, or it could have been because they were no longer open to people viewing information about Al-Qaeda on the website.
We don't need the Al-Qaeda website. Probably not.
There are always moments where political affiliations are going to interfere with business. There are also times when tourism videos to certain areas, such as North Korea, could be removed because of unknown reasons. Osama bin Laden video removal was done as a PR move and a show of respect to the individuals who had been affected by events like 9/11. It was also done to show a patriotic symbolism that the United States has accomplished what we have set out to do, and not only is this person dead, but there is no point in continuing to talk about him, or even look at him, because his reign stops here. It was a social move to depict having the upper hand, or the ultimate say.
What is this guy
Videos being removed because the government decides that they are not fit for public viewing is not totally uncommon. There are political and social affiliations happening within these companies, and the content can be monitored at any given time to better reflect how the company wants to be represented, or who they are trying to impress at the time. Getting an order to remove content, based on a political decision, is just par for the course. I myself do not follow politics that heavily, so, to someone like me, them saying, remove videos of this Islamic preacher, I would just remove them. The constant thought is that someone, somewhere, is suffering because of this video being public, so it is easier to just remove it, so that person can go on living without having this out there.
I don't have some weird robot man generating my videos. Anyway, let's go to the next one. Oh, it's portrait.
I'm withholding my name because I would not want to get myself in trouble. I can do that well enough on my own, without your help. I'm from southeastern Missouri, about 90 minutes south of St. Louis. I'm currently at home, sitting through a very strong thunderstorm. I was a typical underachiever, I suppose. I graduated high school with barely passing grades. At the time I felt like I didn't have to prove myself to anyone. Now I know better. Youth is wasted on the young, right? I was given minimal instruction to moderate content. My training consisted of written instructions and some examples. A short test is usually given to make sure that I understand what they're asking for. It's disturbing and something that I try to compartmentalize, but it pays well. And, well, money is money.
Exactly. I did not commit a war crime. I was just following.
The strangest
orders.
experience I had was moderating about 3,000 photos of what appeared to be this family's entire year in pictures. There was a lady with purple hair and a young boy with highlights.
Photos?
I think that child had the best childhood ever. They were always on a boat, at an event, going somewhere, doing something. I wish I could give that to my family. The worst video I ever saw, personally, was an individual killing and dissecting cats. I'm personally a cat lover, and this was not a scientific video series. It was cruel and unusual. The cats were killed in a majority of ways. Running them over, electrocution, beating, stabbing. It was very disturbing to watch. I personally am just not going to continue answering this. I'm sorry. I just hate to rethink about this kind of stuff.
No shit, you're supposed to watch cats get killed.
The person doing it was a middle-aged man, which is probably what made it more disturbing. He would also tell the animals that it was their fault that this was happening. It was almost like this guy would have bad things happen to him at work or something, and this is how he would cope. It was just, pardon my language here, really fucked up. Like, beyond fucked up, because he wasn't just doing the stuff, he would be like, talking and mumbling the whole time, but like, filming the whole thing. And then he would take this shit and edit it, like he would sit and rewatch this messed up shit over and over and pick the best scenes of the animals in pain or struggling and just put them together. Please, trust me when I say there's a deep, dark room in hell with this guy's name written all fucking over it. I'm so sorry, this is just so upsetting to me.
Upsetting to anyone, mate. I'm so tired, don't know why, man.
The day that I first saw one of this guy's videos, I cried. I sat in my gray fucking cubicle and bawled my eyes out for about 10 minutes. That stupid cubicle was like this prison for me, where I am sitting there and just observing this complete disgrace for a human do these horrific things. And yes, I can remove the content, but the shit is still in my head. I left work that day, and I went to a bar and got drunk. It took me 7 tequila sunrises to feel like I had sufficiently forgotten what I had seen. I was still upset though, and I went home and just kind of cried about it. It made me feel like I could not really trust people, and it almost made me incredibly disappointed in people in general. Like I just wanted to find the person and just make him feel a shred of what I felt. But the sick part is he probably resides in a darker place mentally than I will ever know. I again apologize for my language. People are fucked up. That's really what I learned from my experiences. From all the weird stuff I had to sit through, to the just outright filth that was uploaded, you just have to sit back and wonder sometimes if everyone has truly lost their marbles. And see, this is what happens when a bunch of oversharers are suddenly able to share anything they want with anyone. Just fucked up shit, man. But there were also puppies and kittens and some really heartwarming and great stuff. But as a whole, people are fucked up.
That's the end of that. I want to have a look at. I want to see. Does it keep? No, we're going back to. Is this?
I am not allowed to say who I worked for, as moderators can be targeted, and the company requires we remain anonymous. But it was a web-based news outlet that had markets in both the US and the UK.
It might be.
I think a lot of people are surprised to learn that comments on news stories are moderated, and they get upset when the content is deleted. Usually people attribute it to a glitch and try to repost it.
I mean, no,
there were tons of comments that I personally felt ought to have been deleted. Of course, there was the run-of-the-mill racism, homophobia, classism, sizeism. Yeah, it's a thing.
Yes!
But then, there were things that just sounded really horrific.
You know about all of that.
Personal attacks that just towed the line of harassment or threats, but didn't cross it. I personally would have removed a lot more, if I had been permitted. Since moderators' primary concern is the safety of the platform and its users, there was concern over retaliation for the assassination of bin Laden. To avoid being a target, many companies simply refused to post images or videos of him and not stand out. When this happened, I had just moved to text and comment moderation, so I was not in the room where these decisions were made. However, my understanding was that there was a safety concern. Anything we deleted, we did so because it was harassing or threatening. Almost always it was a lot harder to let things be than the choice to take them down. To me, censorship isn't just about the words, it's about censoring ideas, thoughts, and opinions. Some people may moderate in a way that censors those, but my company did not. We removed things with no value, that did not add to the conversation. I almost always feel good about it.
Because that's your opinion. He's absolute fucking dipshit.
When I first started doing video, was the 2008 presidential campaign. We had a very conservative manager who loved Sarah Palin. There was a lot of GIFs and other content floating around, with Palin just saying and doing some ridiculously stupid things, and as a liberal organization, we left most of it up. One day, however, our manager brought up this old policy that no one really followed, about duplicate content, and tried to argue that the GIFs were so ubiquitous that we should have to take some of them down. We all knew it was because she liked Palin. A buddy of mine, who worked for another company, was asked to remove all videos of SpongeBob laughing. Apparently, it made the CEO's dog freak out. Or at least that's what he told me.
Yes! What conspiracy theory is behind no videos of SpongeBob?
I once got a video of a fast food employee spitting in food. There were no faces, and it was anonymous when it was uploaded, so we left it. However, you could see the girl's wrists, and she had a little bluebird tattoo on the inside of one. I was later on a road trip with some friends of mine, and we stopped at a fast food place of the same name. I'm going to pay, and lo and behold, there in front of me is the bluebird tattoo. I thought I remembered it, so I even pulled the video up and showed our friends. We let the lady know, who was mortified, said she only did it once, and gave us a bunch of free food for letting her know that the video was up there.
Why did you put a video on the internet if you're spitting in food if you didn't want to lose your job?
Every once in a while, she only did it once, and gave us a bunch of free food for letting her know that the video was up there. We did not eat the food.
Yeah, no, good, very, very clever idea. Don't want that manky spit food.
Every once in a while, we'd have a random video uploaded that depicted someone committing suicide. This was disturbing, to see someone die in a way that was so completely preventable.
Have you seen
I worked as a counsellor during college, and a few of the videos we got were people my age.
Content.
That was really hard to see.
It's not difficult to find.
There was also the question of who posted it. I mean, who had taken this video, or at least, come into possession of it, and thought to post it. We always turned the video over to police, along with any information we had, but we rarely heard any outcomes of investigations, or anything.
Because there's really hard to find someone
because we were just left to never know. You could always tell when it was a suicide video, even if there was nothing tipping you off from the get-go. It was just a feeling you'd get, that something wasn't right, and then you'd see it.
Like a guy just sitting there, with nothing really happening. That generally
the very first one that ever came in was a kid, probably about 19, who talked to the camera for a little while. He said that he was gay, and had told his parents, and they were making him leave his house. Then his friends kind of just ditched him, and he said he was probably going to have to sleep outside. Then he said he just wasn't going to do that, and hung himself. that was really tough. I'm gay, and have had it pretty good. My parents didn't just tolerate me, they celebrated me. My friends said they always knew, and didn't really care. I was so lucky, and this video made me feel so guilty. We had probably 2 or 3 more after that, and every time, it just brought back this overwhelming guilt.
I actually stop yawning so much, it's getting ridiculous. Here's the last episode. She's kinda lame.
I worked for government engineering colleges in India mainly. In general, people have an impression that internet is a lawless space, where anyone could do, and show, and be, anything as it pleases them, and get away with it. But the content is well moderated and evaluated. In most cases there are guidelines. Sometimes they are very well specified, making our work much easier, and sometimes rather vague, leaving the final judgment to me. Most of the guidelines are quite trivial, like removing content that is sexual in nature, abusive in nature, politically or religiously inappropriate. And some are very specific, like not publishing the name of any content related to a rival brand. In almost every situation, I have felt that the provided guidelines are sensible and should be followed, as they are generally agreed upon in the society. But there may arise moments of ethical confusion.
Yes! You've just listed multiple.
There was a protest by the student of the college for whom I was doing content moderation. The protest raised issues like corruption with the governance of the college, and it got out of hands of the authorities at one point. But, as there was a particular politician in the college governing board whom the protesters were accusing of the whole situation, I was asked to remove any and all content regarding the issues and the protest. The board was concerned that it would affect the public image of that particular politician.
And that's why people protest, to expose politicians. If you censor it, you are censoring.
Once I was asked to remove a particular government document. Someone had hacked into the government websites and leaked the contract details of various activities going on. The intention was to expose the corruption involved within, and it was fairly obvious from those documents. But as it was a government document, after all, I was specifically instructed not to allow any such document to be published. Especially when it comes to political or religious disputes, it is always better to remove content that are not neutral, to prevent emotional misconceptions from certain communities, and actions that follow. But, in situation like when a government gets solid evidences from its secret service that a particular person is dangerous to society, it's far better to remove any content and thereby preventing him from attracting more audience.
The back's starting to hurt from sitting here for so long. God, these videos are long.
Once, I had to censor a photo that showed a hungry Indian kid trying to eat from a decaying dead corpse, as there was nothing to eat elsewhere. The image was so disturbing, as I had to decide against it. Even though it is socially valid to paint a picture of the poverty of that particular region, the image was disgusting by its nature. It was not suitable to be published. I also had to censor out a local rape video featuring a young schoolgirl getting brutally raped by a couple of teenage boys, and the third one filming that on his phone. The video lasted for roughly 10 minutes and covered the whole rape. It was in evidence material, but somehow got leaked. It is highly unethical and cruel to the girl to publish that, and it's not ethically acceptable even to be in possession of that video. All these content were personally disturbing and socially inappropriate.
Watched her away for the whole 10-minute video. Bit fucked up, I ain't gonna lie to you. This is literally more.
Another video I saw featured a small kid being tortured for religious reasons. The kid was a small boy of 6 or 7 years of age. He was sitting in the middle of some sort of religious ritual, with a couple of priests uttering chants nearby. There was a fire burning in the middle, and the relatives of the kid were standing nearby. I don't know what the real purpose of the ritual was, as it was in a language I am not familiar with, but then the visuals were extremely disturbing. The kid was pierced in multiple areas of his body, with red-hot metal rod, and jewelry was hanged through those openings. The kid passed out from pain after some time.
No shit,
I obviously do not publish or allow any of such content within my control.
What religion has stabbing kids with hot metal rods?
A girl within an institution that I was working for sent me a picture of hers, right before she was about to commit suicide. She sent it in such a way that it would reach me only after a day, and hence I was helpless. The girl had been sexually abused earlier, and she asked me to post her picture to expose the injustice shown to her by the system. It was the saddest moment I had encountered in my career.
Okay. I want to see, 'cause this is so real. This is scary. What? Can you explain what the fuck I just watched, please? Could you just explain what the hell I just saw? No? Okay then. That will remain a mystery forever. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.